We're a little late, but let's talk about it. The Milwaukee Bucks fired Adrian Griffin and hired Doc Rivers. I hate to say this, but I'm not surprised they fired Adrian Griffin. At the time of the firing, the Bucks were one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They were either 30-13 or 31-13, somewhere around that. But once again, I'm not surprised they fired him because personally, I thought he was the wrong guy for the job in the first place. And that sucks because if you're Adrian Griffin, you've worked as an assistant coach for all these years on a lot of really good teams. You've been a part of championship teams. You've been a part of teams that have made deep playoff runs. You've been a respected assistant coach in the NBA for a long time. And you work and you work and you finally get an opportunity to be a head coach. I just think that this was not the right opportunity for him. When the Bucks fired Budenholzer at the end of last season, it was obvious that they were looking for a coach that was going to be willing to make some in-game adjustments. I thought they were going to go after a more seasoned guy. Personally, I didn't think the Sixers were going to get Nick Nurse. I thought Nick Nurse was going to go to the Bucks. So when they hired Adrian Griffin, I was like, first-time head coach on a team that has really high expectations? I don't think he's going to have a long leash. And then if you remember, before the season even started, Terry Stotts quit because he couldn't get along with Adrian Griffin. There had been multiple reports that plenty of players went to the coach and said, we don't like the defense that you're running. Can we go back to our old defense? And once again, while the team had been winning games, there just had been a constant turmoil going on in the background of the Milwaukee Bucks. And I think as the season continued to go on, they truly realized how bad their defense is. And part of it is because you traded Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard. And even me personally, I think I forgot how bad Damian Lillard was on defense simply because Portland wasn't known or didn't have really high defensive expectations. Whereas the Bucks have all these past seasons, and Dame sticks out like a sore thumb on the defensive side of the ball right now. And I don't think the front office was seeing the type of adjustments they want to either try to hide Dame or just do things differently to try to make this defense as best as possible. Now, do I think Doc Rivers was the right decision, the right person to hire? Not necessarily. I think Doc Rivers will make this defense better. He's known as a coach that can make a lot happen on the defensive side of the ball. But at the same breath, he's not a coach that's known for making end-game adjustments and late playoff runs. He's just not. He's not the type of coach that calls a timeout to stop the bleeding to make an adjustment. He's the type of coach to say, hey, I'm gonna let my players figure it out. I've set the game plan in motion. I trust my players. So we'll see what happens. Doc is bringing on former assistants Dave Yeager and Rex Kalamian. I think it'll be a couple of games before we see any real adjustments, maybe even a couple of weeks before we see any real adjustments. Doc himself recently said it's going to be a challenge. He's never joined a team mid-season. It might get rough here for a while. I don't think it's going to be that rough, don't get me wrong, because I do still think that this team is just talented enough to win a lot of regular season games, but they have to figure it out come playoffs. And I don't know if Doc's the coach that you want going into the playoffs.